Ransom Riggs is the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. And he's here with us at Daybreak this morning. Good morning, Ransom, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you have this book, Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children, which is your debut novel. And it was New York Times bestseller for weeks and weeks and weeks. Tell us, what is it about?
It's about a boy who is growing up in a little boring town in Florida and has a really close relationship with his grandfather, who fills his head with these crazy stories about an island far away full of magical children who can do incredible things. And the boy just thinks that they're fairy tales until he grows up a little. He's about 15 or 16, and something terrible happens to his grandfather, and his grandfather's last words are, "They're real, the island is real, and you have to go there." And so he's propelled into this mystery to go and discover the truth, and he does. And you meet all of these fantastic children and the strange things they can do.
In an orphanage, correct?
Sort of,
Sort
yeah.
of like an orphanage.
The children aren't actually orphans. They're just sort of divorced from the normal world. They're peculiar, and so we're like not welcome in normal society.
Peculiar.
Yeah.
And I know that you used some old photographs, or like what I read, they said that the book was praised for the creative use of vintage photographs, and this is what the boy, the 16-year-old boy, Jason, the name of the character, or Jacob,
yeah,
was used to sort of go on an adventure. He discovered some old photographs of his grandfather.
His grandfather has this like cache of old photos that he
Okay.
uses to sort of illustrate the stories he tells when Jacob is young, like, and this is the one who could make fire with her bare hands. And Jacob's like, ooh. And then later he grows up and thinks they're just trick photos or something that's not real. But when he goes to the Peculiar Children's home and meets the kids, they look just like the old photos, and he's super freaked out.
Super freaked out, and that's where the adventure begins.
Mm-hmm.
And I did look through the pictures of one of the books. This is the sequel to your first book, and in the photos, most of them are quite similar to these, very eerie and kind of like speaks to you in a way. And where did you come up with the photos that you used for the books?
Well, I found them. I became a collector of photos maybe 5 years ago when I discovered that you could find old, vintage, lost, orphaned, given away photographs, snapshots at flea markets and swap meets and stuff, which there are many in Los Angeles. And I just got obsessed with collecting them, and I was drawn to the weird ones, and here came all these pictures, and I wondered, what can I do with these? And they kind of sparked a story in my mind. Okay,
and I know that I read about you, your background, and you sort of grew up with hearing ghost stories, and is that true?
Oh, we all did.
We all did. That's true. That's so true.
I hear the Philippines is like the place of amazing and really frightening ghost stories. I'm still hoping someone will tell me one.
Yeah, you should do some research over here. There are some frightening
witches and spirits and things. Good stuff.
So is this the reason why you decided to write a novel like this?
I grew up loving like Stephen King and the Chronicles of Narnia and Monty Python. And somehow this is the wicked love child of all three of those things, I think.
And I also know, which is amazing, that the movie rights have been sold, and that possibly Tim Burton is set to direct the film?
Yeah, they're shooting this summer.
That's great. So how'd that all happen?
Well, I had nothing to do with it. I was just like, he wants to make the, yes, okay, all right. Super thrilled. I've loved Tim Burton since I was old enough to understand what movies were.
Tim Burton, yeah, it should be a great film. And so you started with Peculiar Children, and now there's a sequel, which is this book that I'm holding right here, Hollow City. How does the story continue in this novel?
Well, it picks up about 3 minutes after the first book ends.
Okay.
There's going to be a third book after this, and the same is true. The end of the second book and the beginning of the third book are just sort of joined. So the three books are kind of one big story.
And you're not going to give us any details?
No. Of the third book?
Well, yeah.
Well, I'm sworn
What's
to
coming up with the
silence.
third? Well, this one, a little bit about this one. In the first book, Jacob goes through, finds himself in an orphanage and meets the peculiar children. And then what happens in this book?
Well, they come under attack by these horrible creatures called the Hologast,
Okay.
whom only Jacob can see. They're invisible to everyone else.
Okay.
Jacob and his grandfather could see them. Boy, I'm giving away so many plot details, but
I know.
it's very exciting, and at least people tell me it is. And they have to leave the island at the end of the story, and sort of he and the children get on these rickety boats and set out into adventure and the unknown at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the second book picks up from there, and they have to make this perilous journey to across 1940. They're in wartime England, and they have to get to London and meet all sorts of other peculiar children and fend off the enemies that are after them. And it's all very exciting and harrowing.
Right, in connection to what you said, your book was said to be, has very good characterization and setting. So I can just imagine it already. You know, I haven't read it yet, but I can see how it could be that way. And so also, there's a third one coming out. When is that going to be out?
Next year, probably next summer.
Okay, so you're still working on that.
Yeah.
So right now, this Hollow City and Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children is out at National Bookstore. So if you guys want to go grab a copy, it's a great book. And I guess another question: who is Miss Peregrine, and what character does she play in the story?
She's like the headmistress of the children's home. Mm-hmm. The sort of setup of this world is that, like, along with our world, there is a whole other society of peculiar people who can do strange things but are sort of rejected from society and feared by it and unknown. And they're gathered up and protected in groups by these matronly, powerful figures called imbrants, who can manipulate time and turn into birds and protect the children. So Miss Peregrine is just the one that Jacob comes into contact with in the first book.
Okay, and when you say peculiar children, what do you mean by that?
I mean, you know, children who can do strange things that are unlike us. They have some of them have powers, you know, they can levitate or something, and some of them just, there's a character that has a mouth in the back of her head, which is not like a superpower exactly. I think there's a spectrum of peculiarity and weirdness that are, you know, some might be considered a disability and some might be considered a super ability. I kind of think that's how our world works too. You know, people are different in a variety of ways that have good and bad things about them.
Okay, well, definitely this is going to be one good read. And thank you so much for coming to Daybreak to tell us all about the novel. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. That was Ransom Riggs. He is the author of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City.